and welcome to this week's Karma Cards. I missed you last week. We had a small tragedy in our family. Our beloved cat, Mr. Pants, passed away. I've had Mr. Pants for 13 beautiful years. And it happened kind of suddenly. I mean, I had a feeling, had an inkling last February that we were getting close to the window, and I was not ready for it, but it did happen right after the full moon. He was a very spiritual kitty. In fact, he may have come in during some of my Karma Card videos, so you might have heard me talking to Mr. Pants. He loved to be a part of Karma Cards. He loved to be a part of the spirit circles. And I just think it's kind of beautiful that he chose a pretty epic full moon to exit during. So, yeah, with that happening for our family and it being pretty sudden, like it was just all of a sudden, it really took hold of him. So I had to take time out and just really grieve. I'm still kind of grieving, but I've definitely found peace, and he's made his presence very known. He is still around. He's still sending lots of messages of love and light. So, you know, there's a silver lining of knowing that just because we're separated from someone physically doesn't mean that they're gone. And that's something that my little ones are learning about now and trying to understand. It's a pretty big concept. So it's been a heavy week, and it goes in alignment with where we are at in energy right now, because like I said, we just had a pretty epic full moon and lunar eclipse. So we are currently inside eclipse season. The ahas and epiphanies that are happening during this time are going to culminate in 6 months. So the messages, the things that you're getting right now, you're going to see the fruits of that in 6 months. And that brings me to a couple of messages from the team. So the first one, and by the way, I know I keep cutting myself off because I'm like, and then there's also, so the Schumann resonance off the charts. It's like bouncing up and down. It was really ramping up with the full moon energy. Then we had the lunar eclipse, and now we are fully into retrograde season. So we have Pluto, Saturn, these are two heavy hitters, and Mercury, all in retrograde right now. And next month, or towards the end of this month rather, Jupiter will be joining. So we're in the middle of retrograde season. And with Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter, we are here until October, right? So that's... There's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up, but it's going to be coming to light. And retrogrades, remember, are about internalizing the energy. So it's really a deep look inward. And that brings me to the message from the team. And the message from the team is like, graduation is coming soon, and we're in a test period. We are in like for some of us, actually for a lot of people I've seen, almost all the clients I've seen, it's pretty major tests. And I felt it as well. So something is going to come up for you that's going to feel pretty big, and it's going to cause you to really pause. And the basic choices are seems to be around repeated pattern versus desired patterns. So we're looking at the way we make choices. We're looking at behavioral patterns we've held on to a long time. Core beliefs, that's really what it's, that's the one. It's core belief testing. So things are going to come up in your life, and it's going to really see, like after the cocoon period, after the healing cycle we've been through, what choice will you make now when presented with the test, right? And again, this is not about getting it right or else. That's not it. And what I actually see too is that a lot of people are successfully handling their tests. They're making the new choice. That's what I see amongst the people that I've been able to observe and talk to about it, that the right choice making is actually happening. So I'm very excited for people, because I don't feel like this is any kind of like negative test. It's not, and my team just popped up right as I said that. It's not a negative test. It's not a punishment. It is not meant to make your life harder, which is something that, these are all things that pop into my head when we're being tested, is like, why? What have I done? Nope. It's really like, these are the tools that you have now acquired. You got some more self-awareness. You probably from that self-awareness picked up new ideas, new ways of being, or really connected with what you want and became more consciously aware. So now when presented with something that's catalyst, will you retreat back to an old pattern, or will you use and choose the new tools, even though you might feel insecure, uncomfortable, and unsure of yourself? Will you choose that? So if you resonate with this, let me know. Put a comment in this video so I can see if that's resonating for you. I've seen it resonating for a lot of people, and I definitely feel like, especially with the passing of my cat, who was more than a cat to me. We were very close, very connected. And it was interesting what had come up for me personally. It was a lot of aha and awareness around control, like what we can control and what we can't control. And yeah, I'll share this with you. So one of the things that has come up in my own psyche about a pattern that was playing out, and a lot of our patterns, by the way, get established early on. They're connected to our inner child and how that child dealt with situations that made that child feel insecure, unsafe, or out of control as a child. We came up with coping mechanisms, ways to get through it, but we also picked up ideas at whatever age it happened, that this is how the world is, or this is how you are in the world. And a pattern I had identified was just a feeling of helplessness, like I can't do anything about this. And so that became this core pattern that started to play out in a lot of little ways in my life. Small example, anytime new technology gets presented that's just a wee bit challenging or different from what I'm used to, that this thought of I can't do this kicks in, and it makes the whole experience a lot harder, because not only do I have to learn something new, but I have to deal with my personal resistance about having to learn something new that maybe I didn't want to have to learn, but I need the tool, right? So this was something I had identified for myself, was this belief about helplessness. And I remembered on the day that Pants was dying, like I said, it came on, like, it really just ramped up within like a 24-hour period. And I was trying to help him, and there was just nothing I could do except be there for him. I could barely make him comfortable, because he was just in so much pain, and you know, everything that we had tried to do for him wasn't working, including, you know, going to the vet and getting their help as well. It wasn't working. So I was crying to my husband, and I said, I feel helpless here. And I said, I feel like the universe is kind of tricking me, because I'm trying actively to let go of this idea of helplessness, like let go of the belief in the pattern. And I'm like, why is this happening? And what I instantly heard was, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then my team said, do you understand the difference now? That there are some times in our life where we are truly helpless. There was nothing I could do except be there. But knowing that I couldn't actually stop or help this process. There's a difference between that kind of helplessness and the helplessness that's in the mind, right? That we are creating, that creates limits and limiting beliefs, and therefore a limited experience in ourselves. And so that was like the test, the awareness of those two things, right? So that's an example of how it can look to really like, you know, and in my test case, it was just that wisdom to understand that, yes, in some cases, there's true helplessness, and maybe as a child there was true helplessness, but if we can't identify that this is truly something out of our control, then we kind of spend our entire life trying to maybe get more control and at the same time still feeling helpless, right? So that's a huge thing to like unpack and finally understand and put to bed. So I hope that my example of one of the things that I've gone through, because I don't want to say it's the thing, because I know as soon as I try to declare that, the universe is like, oh really? You think that's it, Therese? And they're going to pop something else on me. So I'm just saying, that's one of the things that I've been tested on by the universe, but I hope that example helps you see and identify, in case you're also feeling this energy and you're also starting to see these scenarios come up for you that help you to identify an old pattern versus a new way of being. And I would say that the trick is to lean into the new way of being, which I bet you're already doing for yourself. So with that, let's do karma cards for this week. For those of you who are new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how this works. So I've already pulled the cards. I've asked my team, what message do you have for us this week? And I've got two answers here, an answer in red and answers in blue. Red represents action-related answers and blue are outcome-related answers. And the way that you play is you just intuitively tune in and feel, what do you need right now? Do you want action-related answers? If so, choose red. And if you want outcome-related answers, choose blue. And then, of course, many people like to choose both, and you can definitely do that. And while you're deciding, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for today, June 2nd through June 9th. And the flavor of this reading, okay, we have the action-oriented planet of Mars, so I can tell you it's going to be a lot of action steps we can take. In the sign of Sagittarius being a fire sign, so also very, fire signs tend to be the action-oriented, active types of signs. In the 5th house, which is ruled by Leo, so another action-y, feeling-oriented sign. This whole spread actually represents fire. So fire is the element of will. It's your willpower. It's your heart center. It's your ambition. It's your desire. So we've got a lot of fiery desire in this week's reading. So let's see what it's like. All right. For those who are choosing action, your spiritual action is to energize your highest ideals with the trust of a child. Energize your highest ideals with the trust of a child. This is really interesting. It's like go all in to your goals, to what you want to see created in this world wholeheartedly, right? So with the trust of a child means everything you got. It's basically go all into your dreams is a quick way to summarize that. Go all in. Mental action. Confront the rules of fun, romance, and making art. Yeah, so again, this whenever this one comes up, I feel like they're saying like, look, just what is happening outside of you does not dictate when you can have joy, when you can have fun, when you can really squeeze the juice out of life. The outside world doesn't dictate that, right? So if that is stopping you for some reason, like if you're having personal guilt for wanting to choose fun just because your current circumstances may not reflect a fun time, you gotta learn to let that go. because you're not living fully if you're not enjoying your life. And yes, it's a paradox to try and enjoy yourself during difficult periods of time. But humanity, the best of humanity, thrives despite what is going on, right? Like, how does this generation exist if people during World War II didn't figure out how to have fun, have romance, and make art? In fact, the irony is that usually what happens is when there's pain, trouble, and strife in the external world, it literally, our spirit gets stimulated to create the opposite, right? We are like, oh hell no, this is not what life is. This is not what life is about. And we almost have a driving fire to create which doesn't seem to be present. And so, if you feel oppressive energy, meaning like, I want to express myself, I want to feel joy, I want to feel good, but I don't know if I should because I don't know if that's appropriate. That's oppressive energy. That's what they're saying. That's what you should be confronting right now. Like, tell it to go F itself, right? Like, you deserve joy, happiness, fun, romance, art, all of the beauty of life. You definitely deserve it. It's your birthright. Physical action at this time. Force yourself to get out in the world and do it dramatically. Force yourself to get out in the world and do it dramatically. Yeah, take your space back, right? All the shenanigans are going to come to an end, and I suspect definitely by the end of this month there's going to be like a boomerang energy. That's just what I've been feeling since January. I've mentioned it a few times. End of June feels really good. Don't wait for it to feel good. Be the reason it feels good. That's kind of like what this is saying. Remember what I just said about like during darker times, it inspires people and the soul to create the light. The reason it's going to feel good at the end of this month is because people are going to be the light, the joy, okay, that energy. So now let's look at outcomes for the week of June 2nd through June 9th, with the sun in Sagittarius in the 5th house, which I also call the fun house. The spiritual outcome at this time, the drive for insight to understand the power of love. A drive for insight to understand the power of love, right? Like, that's what you are. We are love. That's what we are. The energy of the universe is love. Like, the vehicle, the energy drives is love. We are love, right? The power of love, the drive to understand the power of love. So this is like a deep internal desire to know yourself and to know your personal power as well. Mental action or outcome, at this time, the confronting of the wisdom of investments, gambles, and other games. Right, so remember when I said, like, don't wait for the light to be here. You are the light. Like, you come out and shine. That's going to feel risky. It's still going to feel risky, even though there's, like, no risk. There really isn't a real risk. There is a perception of risk here. I see people not making the choices they want to make because they have a perception that something negative will happen to them if they set themselves free. And that perception is so strong that it literally keeps them suppressed. It keeps them bound up, even though they don't want to be. They're choosing to be bound because it feels risky, it's scary, rejection, shaming, all that stuff can happen. That's what has to be confronted. You're the light. You're going to shine. It's going to feel risky. And you know what? Take away all the external world circumstances. Take away all the stuff that's happening. And just remember that putting your heart out there, no matter in what way you put it out there, feels like a risk. Think about the first time you fell in love. Think about before you ever told the person that you love them. Think about how hard your heart was beating and how scared you were, because it feels like a risk. And anywhere that love is involved, is going to feel risky when you're putting your heart out there. It always feels like a risk, right? That never goes away. It doesn't matter what circumstances are happening in the world. So if it's worth it, if whatever you get in your life, if there is risk involved, that means that there's worth there. There's value in it. It's important to you. That's what risk, the feeling of riskiness tells you, is that there is something of value connected to it. And this is not to be confused with a lower level of like gambling and things like that, where, you know, I'm talking about the true rewards and the true actions that we take, the aligned actions. There's always, anytime you want to grow out of the version you are into the next version, that feels risky and scary, right? What if it doesn't happen? What if, you know, we get plagued with what if, because we actually value what we might get and we're already afraid of losing it before we try. That's what I'm talking about. Physical outcome at this time. Action resulting from the understanding of your creations. Action resulting from the understanding of your creations. So the creations are not just what we physically create. Our mind creates, right? Our mind creates. Our mind is creating who you are. Our mind's creating the life you think you're living. Your mind's creating the goals that you're going after. Your mind's creating the limits that you experience. I mean, we create so much with our mind before we ever physically create it. So once we understand what we're creating, we can take action with it. When you understand either the positive implications of what you're creating, you can then take clear action forward. When you understand the negative implications of what you're creating, you can then take actions to correct that behavior, to correct those thoughts, to free yourself from those thoughts. So it's just letting you know that, this card's really interesting because, yes, there's a lot of fire and heart connected to it, but I can also feel that there's a, thanks to the Sagittarius card, deep contemplation, possibly through the test, and what we think about, what we're being offered as catalyst and helping us to make a new decision, it's going to help us take action forward. I've seen a lot of people turn it around quickly. So this test energy I'm talking about, it can feel daunting. It can feel a little imposing even when it's presented to you. I mean, when you're, for example, in my example, I was talking about death. That I don't think anything feels quite as imposing and permanent as that. And yet, once you have the experience, once you make the choice, the beauty, ease, and grace and understanding, the wisdom, the clarity, it kicks in so fast. It's almost instantaneous relief, or it's very, very close behind the whole experience. So nothing to fear. It's such a beautiful, heart-centered, loving, strong energy. This energy is empowering, right? So let's just really quickly, before I go here, recap the retrogrades we're going through. Number 1, Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. Wow. I mean, this isn't the first time. We did it last year too, but when we go Pluto retrograde, we're looking at specifically how we feel disempowered around authority and where we gave our own authority away. And we're being asked to call it back to us now. Like, look at where we give our power away, and call it back now. It's yours. It's always been yours. The only reason it left is because we gave it away, right? So that's 1. 2, Saturn retrograde in Aquarius. So we've got the energies of karmic return and responsibility and what we have learned. So, and Aquarius is about visionary, new thinking, forward thinking, future thinking. So it's a combination of being introspective about what you learned and also remembering the new choice, which is what I feel like is really helping us during this test period, because the awareness of the new way of being, the new choices, the future of your own life is right there, right next to this. What have I learned, right? It's beautiful. And then we have Mercury retrograding in Gemini. And this energy is all about how, like, it literally is about how you're thinking about yourself, how you're expressing yourself. And it's about stopping to take a look at that. Like, is this helping you or hindering you? Is it getting in your way? Are you listening to yourself? That's the beauty of this Mercury retrograde. It's always there with that Mercury retrograde, but right now it's like, are you listening to how you think about yourself? Like, all of that is coming up to the surface for you to look at, and you're like, you know what? I am not that weak version of myself that I've been holding on to. That version has already surpassed this. In fact, I don't have to keep relearning this about myself. I just now have to accept that it was there and let it go. So much about the dynamics inside of us, getting that power back, choosing that new way of being, and understanding how you're communicating yourself and expressing yourself and getting clarity there. This is all beautiful stuff that helps you with everything that the new earth is bringing. It's coming in. It's just, like I said, it's like getting you ready for graduation. It's just like when you're in high school and you take your SAT prep for the next level, which is college. It's kind of like that. So, and I know that if that triggers people, I get it. I never loved taking the test, never loved it. But in this sense, I get it. It's just to check in, like, are you ready? Because, the next awesome time period is approaching and you're invited. So let's make sure that you're ready for the energy that's coming. I hope that you have a beautiful week. I hope that whatever comes forward for you, you pass with flying colors, that you feel incredible afterwards, and you can see how much you really have grown. Sending you so much love and positive energy. Mwah. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.